One thing you want to have is an inverter, and this is kind of a wimpy inverter. I got this is a 350, I got a 450, and I got a 1200, and there's ones that are 2000. Now, even a 1200 watt inverter can run my electric chainsaw, which is great. This little Samurai has a manual choke on it, so you can kind of up the idle a little bit, which is good, and give a little more juice. Because you really don't want to run this inverter, you know, while just off the battery. You get a lot more power out of it when you got some amps coming in from the alternator. But here, you know, yeah, sure, you can have battery-operated drills and stuff like that. But here, you know, I'm running it right off the inverter. The thing is, it's a go anywhere you want type of thing. This makes your little vehicle into a generator. And with this little 1300cc 80 cubic inch motor, you know, it makes it very versatile. I mean, the inverter is very cheap. As a matter of fact, you can get like a 2000 watt inverter for like a little over $100 bucks. My 1200 watt inverter running off of this will power my refrigerator too. If it's off of this, off the little Suzuki 1300cc, which can sip gas and sit here idling for many hours. Probably runs cheaper than a freaking now if you're running the V8 and the Chevy, yeah, it's not going to be cheap. But this thing actually runs, it just sips fuel, especially with the little HHO setup. And I can, you know, with the manual choke, I can put it on a slightly faster idle, so it's idling a little over 1000 RPMs. So it's getting a little bit of a charge in there on the battery. You know, it's one of these simple things that people just don't think of. And I know I can run my electric chainsaw off the 1200 watt inverter, but I would suggest a 2000 watt inverter for the little electric chainsaw, because sometimes it trips the breaker with the 1200 watt one, and not all of them are rated the same. Sometimes, I mean, they're not the same for what they advertise. A good quality 350 watt inverter, sometimes it won't trip as easy as a cheap ass 500 watt. And I know a lot of times they rate these at the surge wattage. You know, here it's 700 watts max, 350 steady, but even that doesn't mean nothing when you're talking about USA versus Chinese quality. And most of the stuff is Chinese out there. So if you're going to get a Chinese-made inverter for like some heavy-duty power tools that you can use with your 4x4 truck or whatever and take it out in the field, you want to get 2000. If you're running it, you know, and if you're running it with the generator, I mean, you're running it with the alternator running on the car, you know, they're going to run your battery down. Now, the advantage of having a smaller inverter, though, is that it takes less power to operate the inverter. That's the advantage. So if you don't need that much, fine. But most of the stuff, the plugs you got in the cars, they're not that much. They're not designed for really operating power tools, most of them. And rarely, I don't know if any cars have any 2000 watt inverters already incorporated in the dashboard. You know, there might be something out there, but, and this thing too would be better if you're going to use it a lot. You might want to have it hardwired to the battery versus these clips, and with a disconnect switch where you could flip a disconnect switch like I have on my Chevy under the hood there, and you can just disconnect this, and then when you need to, you connect it and you flip it on. Because hardwired, you're getting a little more juice than you are with these clips. But the main thing is, when you're running the vehicle, this thing will actually keep up a hell of a lot better, because the battery's not being drawn down. It's got the alternator behind it. The alternator's and with a slight idle. Like if I put this up to like 1500 RPMs right now with a slight higher idle, I mean, yeah, even though it's not a big powerhouse alternator in here, which you could put one in here later if I wanted to, but with that, this little 350 watt one would power a lot of stuff. So here I'm showing a drill. But yeah, you can have sawzalls, you can have but like I said, one of the big ones I think is a chainsaw, and that you really want to get a 2000 watt to be on the safe side. But then if you're running that, you want to keep the car running. And this is where the old technology comes in handy, where you have you know, a cable with the throttle linkage, and you have the choke cable where you can up the idle a little bit. Today's computerized cars, you really can't do a lot of that crap, you know what I mean? Unless maybe you get some kind of chip with a button or something. I mean, it gets asinine, really. So sometimes the old school is a lot better, but this is a very, very handy thing to have out in the field, no doubt about it. And for what it's cost and what it can do for you, it's well worth it, because it makes your vehicle into not only a power tool thing, but it could be like a super duper charger or something, some kind of things you might need to plug in to charge up something where it's only got a 120 volt outlet. There's a lot of stuff that could go. And I know, like I said, with even the little 1200 watt inverter, which is not that big, it's a pretty decent quality one. It'll power my full-size refrigerator if I'm running this. And I have, and this little engine, man, this thing can sit here and idle for freaking all day, man. It wouldn't even use up a half a tank of gas. In a lot of ways, it seems to be better than you know, the Coleman generator that uses gas, so it's pretty amazing.